Serbia says no to sanctions on Russia, again. But behind the headlines, weapons flow to Ukraine and quiet aid signals a silent shift. Vucic walks the wire between Moscow and Brussels. As pressure mounts and neutrality fractures. This is VERTEX. And the question, is Serbia still neutral or quietly shifting sides? In a volatile geopolitical climate shaped by war in Ukraine and strategic polarization between East and West, Serbia is walking a diplomatic tightrope, one that has long allowed it to straddle alliances. But as the war drags on and Brussels pushes harder, the space for ambiguity is narrowing. Now, under growing European Union pressure and Russian suspicion, Belgrade's balancing act may be reaching its limits. On July 27th, President Aleksandar Vucic reaffirmed a long-standing position: no sanctions against Russia. Serbia will not impose sanctions against Russia and will continue to adhere to its established policy on the issue, Vucic said, responding to recent comments by Minister for European Affairs Nemanja Starovic. Serbian outlet Dnevnik reported on July 27th.
We will continue with our policy, which was principled and which has proven to be correct so far, which no one liked. Neither those in the West nor those in the East. Serbian citizens approve of the policy because it is the policy of an independent and sovereign state.
While a minister in the government of Serbia claims one day that the country is ready for sanctions against Russia, the next day, Vucic denies it. In an interview published on July 25th by Austria's APA news agency, Serbian European Integration Minister Nemanja Starovic suggested that Serbia would consider aligning with EU sanctions on Russia once the country's accession to the European Union is imminent.
One day, we are ready for everything, for very big compromises regarding Kosovo, and to fully participate in sanctions against Russia when membership in the European Union, EU, is in sight. Belgrade's current refusal to impose sanctions stems from economic necessity rather than political loyalty. Russia would not be affected at all, but the Serbian economy would be affected to a huge extent.
Serbia, an official EU candidate since 2012, has repeatedly expressed its goal of joining the bloc. However, progress has stalled due to ongoing concerns over democratic backsliding and persistent tensions with Kosovo. The mixed signals are confusing, not just abroad, but at home. President Vucic, however, rebuffed the remarks, calling them careless, and accused both foreign media and domestic actors of seeking to undermine Serbia's independence.
I'm sorry that some of our friends in the Russian media can hardly wait to find something to criticize Serbia for. And I'm sorry that we have many people in our domestic political arena who would rather rush to the defense of the Russians than ever rush to the defense of Serbia. I have to disappoint them. Serbia will not impose sanctions against Russia.
Although Serbia has not joined any EU sanctions against Russia and refuses to sign anti-Russian declarations, the government continues to emphasize Ukraine's territorial integrity and provide humanitarian assistance. These actions include earlier deliveries of generators and medical supplies, and now a readiness to contribute to post-war reconstruction. The Kremlin has taken notice, but public threats have not deterred Vucic's position. Despite the public refusal to impose sanctions, Serbia has been quietly supporting Ukraine. Serbia has not signed any anti-Russian declarations, but it has consistently supported Ukraine's territorial integrity and sent humanitarian aid, from generators and medicine to offers of post-war reconstruction. Belgrade continues to play both sides, but the balance is shifting. Each new step brings it closer to the Western camp. Serbian arms producers are expanding shipments of ammunition to Ukraine, using grey scheme transfers through NATO intermediaries. Shell components from Serbian factories are exported to companies in Bulgaria and the Czech Republic, which assemble them and deliver the final products to the front. delivering over 100,000 artillery shells and 1 million rounds of ammunition. The scale of these operations has drawn sharp criticism from Russian intelligence. Vucic has long walked a delicate diplomatic line between the West and Russia. In May, Russian intelligence accused Serbia of supplying weapons to Ukraine, a claim Belgrade has denied. A 2024 Financial Times investigation found that Serbian ammunition had reached Ukraine via third-party intermediaries, albeit on both sides of the war. Facing heightened scrutiny, Vucic announced on June 23 that Serbia was suspending all arms exports, citing national security and economic concerns. Earlier that month, on June 11th, Vucic made his first visit to Ukraine to attend the Ukraine Southeast Europe Summit in Odessa. While he declined to sign the summit declaration condemning Russian aggression, he offered Serbia's support with post-war reconstruction efforts in Ukrainian cities. Meanwhile, Moscow has accused Belgrade of profiting from the war while hiding behind a multi-vector policy. But the Kremlin's warnings have not reversed Serbia's behavior. If anything, they appear to have emboldened it. This balancing act is made even more delicate by the divide between Serbia's political leadership and its population. Serbian society remains overwhelmingly sympathetic to Russia, a legacy of cultural, historical, and geopolitical ties, along with a deep distrust of the West after the Yugoslav wars. The government, however, remains committed to European Union accession and understands that cooperation with Ukraine is now part of that deal. Rather than openly choosing a side, Belgrade is trying to appease Brussels through quiet aid deliveries and public gestures of goodwill, without provoking domestic backlash or triggering a confrontation with Moscow by cutting ties with Russia completely. This strategy of silent alignment has worked so far, but each new step toward Ukraine and the West makes it harder to sustain.